Okay.
Maybe the camera won't quit.
Ready.
Ready. Yes, I'm ready. Okay. Action. All right. Welcome back to Tuesday Talks with Red. Today is episode 18. Yeah, we changed it. Good job. Called I'm Choosing Me. Okay. Now, I've been choosing me for a while. And so it was very difficult when I started writing this episode. I'm like, I don't even know where to go with this. I just know that my new philosophy is if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. And so, and that's what this is alternately called as a title. And I'll explain why in just a minute. I kind of had to try to figure out how to frame this just because I don't even think about the fact that I choose me. Finally, I choose me. So I want to start with like the fact that this isn't aimed at being selfish. This isn't aimed at being self-centered. My dog is going crazy over here. Like those of us in the biblical parking lot, it is biblical to put others before us. Okay? Those of us not in the biblical parking lot, we don't like to be around selfish people. Like, we know we want people to sometimes think of us and not be selfish. So that's a little bit difficult, as that's not what I'm talking about here. So a lot of times putting others before us, especially those of us as mamas, we put our kids before us all the time. Okay, put our spouses before us a lot of times, put our friends before us a lot of times, just depending on the needs that are going on at the time. A lot of times when I'm in a bad headspace of either, you know, I'm sad for myself or depressed or, you know, whatever, reaching out to others, putting others before you, doing something selfless for someone else helps you remember kind of where you are and kind of puts you back in your place a little bit. And so I don't want to negate that. It kind of helps us take the focus off of our problems and really just help those that we love. So I'm not talking about that. That is healthy. That is good. That is something that we should all aspire to doing on a regular basis. Okay. I'm not talking about self-care. So people always love to talk about self-care, especially women. I don't know why. Like, I gotta get my hair. Now listen, getting this hair done is some self-care. Like, my time with Savannah is gold. Okay. Like, we have some time in that hair chair. Okay. That is self-care. And listen, I don't spend a lot of money on myself. Heaven knows it all gets spent on my kids, but my hair and a manicure pedicure makes me a happy girl. It just does. Like, it rejuvenates me in ways that it just gives me a little shot in the arm. Move on. But I'm not talking about self-care. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about I get to go get a monthly massage or getting away with your girlfriends for a weekend. I mean, that's self-care and sometimes that's needed, but that's not what I'm talking about. Okay? What I'm really talking about is choosing me. You know, a lot of times when we get into those cycles of I'm putting everyone else's needs and thoughts and everything else above mine, I forget that I cannot pour from an empty cup. Like, I have kids, they have schedules, they have places we gotta go. I've got 15 places I need to be. You know what? Sometimes it's okay if I don't show up. You may completely disagree with that, and that's okay. I had to get to a place, I will never forget when my son played baseball for years. And I had a work situation come up where I could not be there for one of his games. And so, I mean, his dad was there, their godparents were there, and he hit a home run. He hit a home run, and I beat myself up because I wasn't there. And he called me and he told me all about it, like the play-by-play, and he was so excited. I wish you could have seen it. They videoed it. Like, I have everything, but I wasn't there because of work. The next game that I went to, he did not hit a home run. It wasn't as exciting. But for some reason in that next game, something clicked in my head of, but it didn't kill him. I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to skip the next 54 games. But it was that situation, I can't explain it, that made me realize I don't have to kill myself to meet everybody else's needs. Do I want to be there? Absolutely, I want to be there for all the things that they do. I want to be, when my daughter is in theater and she has 3 and 4 shows a weekend, I want to pay to be at every show because I might miss something. You know, I want to be there. But for some reason, that situation helped me realize it's okay if I'm not at every single thing. Like if it's taxing me, if I'm exhausted, if something comes up where I need to, it's okay. It's okay to choose me every now and then. And you know what? He doesn't even remember it. Now he's 15. I brought it up. He doesn't even remember it. In his mind, now I've been at everything of theirs. My daughter's mind, I've been at everything of hers. Even though the fact of the matter is, I've not been at every single show. I've not been at every single kickboxing or taekwondo or, I mean, the truth is I've not been at every single one of them. But in their minds, I've never not been there for them. You know, and that validated what happened in that moment for me. Okay? But mom guilt's hard. Mom guilt, mom shame is hard to deal with. But why don't we choose ourselves? So I really had to kind of sit down and think about when there was a time when I didn't choose myself, why don't I choose myself? So I made a list of things of why I didn't. One, it feels selfish. It feels so selfish to be, you know, I am consistently every single weekend and Tuesdays and Thursdays, I am butts in the seats of wherever, whatever's going on. Of course, pre-pandemic. I'm there. I'm at everything. I'm up every morning at 6:30 just because I want to, but I make my daughter tea and my son his pot of coffee that goes in his backpack before they go to school. Like, it's something I enjoy doing. But if one morning I decided I am exhausted and I am sleeping in, like, generally that would feel selfish. But there is one morning, and I know they can bring it up if they want to, where I was like, I'm sleeping. Y'all gonna have to make your own coffee and your own tea. Like, I'm exhausted and I'm sleeping. And I didn't feel one guilt about it. But generally something like that feels selfish. Okay, so that's a lot of times why we don't choose ourselves. This is a biggie. This is a biggie. Looking back, I realized sometimes I confused rescuing with care. Okay? So we'll use my getting up at 6:30 to make, when I don't have to make coffee and tea. All right? We'll use that example. I do that because I care, because I want to, because I love standing in the kitchen and my son, hearing his little pitter-patter of 15-year-old Claude Diddlehofer feet, come in the kitchen and hug me and take his meds and then go do his things. Like, I love it. My daughter says all the time, Mom, you don't have to get up and do that. I'm like, you're right, I don't. I want to. Like, I genuinely want to. To me, that's care. Okay? Versus if I felt like I had to get up and rescue. Like, they can make it if they want to. I was on a business trip 2 weeks ago and I wasn't going to be here that morning. And you know what? They didn't get tea or coffee. Oh well. They didn't make it themselves. That's on them, not me. So I think we really struggle with this choosing us concept because for years we've codependently confused rescue with care. Okay. I think we also have confused neediness with love. Okay, so just if I don't do something, like, first of all, if we ever have to say that in our brain, that's a problem. If I don't do this, then blah, 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 blah. I need them to need me. Guess what? Everybody in my life already needs me. And I know that. Like, I know my kids need me. Yes, my daughter's 18. Yes, my son's 15. But there are still plenty of things they need me for. And they're going to let me know when they need me. But I think for years I confused neediness with love. Doing things out of love versus the neediness side. I think another reason that we don't put ourselves first is because we have spent years teaching other people how to treat us. Okay. So especially in early on relationships, like a lot of times we give a lot that we wouldn't normally do in a real world situation. That's why the first year of marriage sometimes is the hardest, because then that's when, okay, I'm going to quit trying to impress. I'm going to quit trying to do all the things. I'm just going to be me. So we've spent a lot of years teaching people that this is okay. This is how you can treat us. Instead of those boundaries, go back to that boundaries episode, instead of putting up boundaries for ourselves. It's not for them, it's for ourselves. So we've spent so long teaching people how to treat us that us choosing ourselves, now not only do we view it as selfish, now everybody else views it as selfish, because we've set them up for failure in that, well, now you're not even the same person that you were when I met you, married you, whatever. And I think the bottom line is we don't realize our worth. We don't realize our worth for ourselves. I preach this to one of my girlfriends all the time, who just gets wrung out with everything. She's an introvert at heart anyway, and so bless her heart, people just zap the things, and people just zap the life out of her. And I tell her all the time, you cannot pour from an empty cup. Like, she just can't. And she is, because of her choice of boundaries now, she's getting much better. Like, she can healthily process some of that stuff, and I'm so proud of her. So how do we flip the script on that? All right. How do we flip the script and begin to choose ourselves? Okay. Made a couple of notes here. Get an accountability partner. Get that one or two people that you trust everything with. Okay. But be willing to listen when they say, Billy, you're starting to become a doormat. You're starting to cycle back into that neediness versus love, or that rescue versus care. Like, you're starting to cycle back into that. Listen, don't get defensive. Know that if you've allowed some people into that space, go listen to the friendships episode. Like, if you've allowed people into that space, that means you got to listen, because you trust and value their heart for you. So listen. Don't just surround yourself with yes people. Don't just surround yourself with people who just want to have fun. Like, get those couple of people, but be willing to listen when they tell you, you know what? I think you're headed backwards. Trust your instincts. Like, I have had to trust my instincts as I've walked out of that doormat mentality. I gotta trust my instincts sometimes in order to go, you know what? I'm feeling it. So guess what? I've told my kids a couple of times, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to my room and I'm shutting my door and I'm laying down and I'm taking a nap. Don't burn the house down. See you later. Like, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Because if I don't, it gets to a point where things have escalated and spun up so much that now I'm exploding, and now I'm walking away at an even worse time. As opposed to trusting my instinct, feeling that urge, or listening to those accountability partners and going, I need some me time. I know people hate that phrase, but I really do. I need some me time. Fall in love with the life you have. I spent many years wishing and thinking and, hoping things were different, and almost daydreaming that it would become something else. But that's not reality. Like, I have to be in love with the life that I have now. And you know what? If I don't love it, I need to track toward fixing it. Period. I can't just dream it up and hope it happens. Like, I had to fall in love with the life that I have so that I could start putting me first. It cuts down on the constant, I've got to do this and I've got to make this work and I've got to do this, because I'm good with my life right now. I'm good with where I am. Are there things that I need to constantly be tracking towards? Absolutely. But I don't feel like I'm constantly putting out fires and rearranging and doing all the things, because I'm like, this is my life and I'm good with it. I'm good with it. Therefore, I can take some time to step away and choose myself. Okay. I had to learn to, it's the old adage of the gratitude, the awareness, be thankful for the things you have. Because I do journal, I'm able to write some of those things down and go back and look at them. But when there was a time in my life when I didn't, I was constantly only focused on the negative of, man, I wished man, I hope, man, I whatever. And so my mind stayed constantly in that swirl, and it wasn't clear enough to be able to look at what's going on and be like, all right, I'm choosing me. I'm going to choose me in this situation, because I'm constantly in this cloud of trying to head my life a different direction, trying to think through the things that could. Stop. Push all that aside. Is Billy in a healthy place? If not, Billy needs to choose herself. Billy needs to find a way to choose herself. Okay? But ultimately, the best way that I choose myself is the phrase I said is the alternate title of this episode. I had to get to a place where I decided, if my answer to whatever is not a hell yes, not just a yes, like, oh, hell yes, it's a no. Learning to say no, which is a sentence all in of itself, no, period, or no exclamation point, depends on how excited you are. No is a complete sentence. And when I got to the point where saying no doesn't bother me, that's when I knew I was choosing myself. Do you see how that whole set of script flipping is different than being selfish, being self-centered, different from self-care? It is genuinely getting myself to a place where my decisions, my reactions, my whatever validates that I'm choosing myself. And it's a foreign concept. It's a very foreign concept. But I encourage you to start taking little steps to where you, if you don't already choose yourself, to start taking those little steps to getting to a point where you can say, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. And no is a complete sentence. And be okay with that. And be okay with that. So let's work on that this week. Next week is titled Mental Health, Schmental Health. I know we've had some episodes that have touched on it, but I really wanted to take an entire episode to talk about my journey with that, my thoughts and feelings where mental health and the stigma and all the things around it are concerned. So come back next week and let's dive into that. Otherwise, have a great week and I'll see you then.